Hi, I'm Janet. In video 3 of our 4-video series, we once again join Christina, the provider, and quality improvement coach Therese as they tackle establishing goals to help build the PIP team's plan and measure progress.
So I have some updates from my team, and we are ready to keep working on our PIP charter.
Awesome, Christina. I can't wait to hear more.
So we talked and we recruited people to be on our PALCARD PIP team. They are the admissions coordinator, a veteran direct care partner, the nurse manager, one of my activities assistants, and myself. And I'm going to be the project champion.
That's great. Can you tell me a little more about why you picked these people to be part of your team?
Of course. So we want to make PAL cards for new residents, and we thought the admissions coordinator should be included because they do the preference interviews for new residents.
That sounds good.
And we also want to make PAL cards for residents who struggle to communicate their preferences to staff. My assistant has been here for a long time and knows the residents well, so she'll be a big help in creating PAL cards for those residents.
Wonderful. I love that you considered how each team member can contribute to the project.
Thank you. We also asked one of our very experienced and dedicated direct care partners to be on the team. She'll know which residents to include, the most convenient places to put the cards, and how to motivate other direct care partners.
I am so glad that you're including her. Direct care partners are crucial stakeholders in this project, since the goal is to create a tool to support them in their role.
Exactly our thinking. Also, she is highly respected by the other care partners. They look up to her. We knew if she wasn't behind this project, it wouldn't get off the ground.
Great insight. It is so important to have the support of highly regarded staff members.
That's also why we thought to include the nurse manager. She doesn't have the time to do the interviews or make the PAL cards, but she does supervise all the direct care staff and nurses. We need her to know about the PAL cards so she can help train and encourage her staff to use them.
Sounds like you put a lot of thought into who to include on your team. This is really great. You've made a lot of progress already.
Thanks. So we looked ahead on the PIP charter, and it looks like we need to set some goals and figure out how to measure our progress next.
That's right. Have you thought about any goals for the project?
Well, we know we want the PAL cards to help improve our communication around preference information for direct care staff. Do you mean something other than that?
Yes. So you know what you want to achieve, and now we want to create actionable goals to help us get there. Have you heard of SMART goals?
I think I've heard of SMART goals, but I can't remember what that stands for.
Well, let me write it out and we can work through it together. The acronym SMART is an easy way to remember the components of a goal that we need to have to set the team up for success. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. They're statements that articulate what we want to accomplish. They're clear and concise goals, and they're essential for a team to understand how to carry out the project.
Okay, so it's like how goals should be structured.
Exactly. Goal setting can be challenging for teams, and it definitely takes practice. How about we work through a SMART goal exercise together?
That would be great. Then I'll feel more confident in setting goals with my team.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start with specific. When thinking about how to make a goal specific, let's think about these questions. What do you want to accomplish? What actions will you take? Does the goal focus on a single topic or issue?
Well, like I said, we want to create PAL cards for residents.
Right, but let's get more specific here. What do you need to do in order to create those PAL cards?
Well, first, we would need to complete preference interviews with the residents to know what information needs to go on their cards.
Yes. Okay, let's build a goal around completing preference interviews. Now, to ensure your goal is measurable, let's think about these questions. How will you know you're making progress? What information can you collect?
Well, that seems easy. We would be able to tell we're making progress by looking at how many interviews we're getting done. Or not.
Exactly. Next, let's think about what makes a goal achievable. Some questions we'll think about are, what is actually doable? Do you have the necessary skills and resources? Are there competing priorities?
Okay, so thinking about interviewing, between the admissions coordinator, myself, and my assistant, we definitely have that covered. As for priorities, we're not working on anything else right now.
That's great. You have the skills and the time. Now, consider how many interviews you can complete. What is doable?
Well, there's 3 of us, so if we each did 1 a week, I think that's doable.
Great. We'll keep that number in mind. Now, let's make sure the goal is relevant. Consider, why is the result or outcome important? Is the goal related to our opportunity area? Does the goal align with the established priority area?
Oh, yes. This goal is totally relevant. Like I said, we know we have to start with the preference assessments to gather the information for the PAL cards, and all of this is in service of improving our communication of preference information.
Exactly. And last but not least, you want your goal to be time-bound. So we should probably think about these questions. What is the time frame for accomplishing the goal? How long do we think this project might take?
Maybe a month?
So let's circle back to the number of PAL card interviews you said was doable.
Well, between the 3 of us, that means we could probably get 10 to 15 done in a month.
Okay, so now if we put that all together, we have a solid SMART goal. Complete preference interviews for 10 to 15 residents in order to gather the information needed to create PAL cards by the end of the month.
Okay, that goal is totally doable, and I can see how that clearly lays out what we need to accomplish. Thanks for working that through with me.
Of course.
So, according to the PIP charter, after our team comes up with the SMART goals, we need to develop our interdisciplinary plan of action. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
The interdisciplinary plan of action is simply the process of breaking down your goals into manageable steps or tasks, and then delegating those tasks to team members.
Could we walk through this process with the goal we just created?
Absolutely. So our goal is to complete preference interviews for 10 to 15 residents by the end of next month. To break this down, we first need to decide which residents we want to make PAL cards for.
Oh, okay. We already decided that. We're making PAL cards for both new residents and those who have been living in our community a while but struggle to communicate their preferences.
Great. Now, let's decide who should be responsible for completing those interviews.
Well, the admissions coordinator will interview the new residents. Then my activities assistant and I will interview the residents who have been living here for a while.
Okay. Now we need to think about how to set the 3 of you up for success. Does anyone need some training or coaching on how to gather the information? Or do changes need to be made to anyone's schedule or workflow?
So the 3 of us could meet to make sure we're on the same page about what information we need to gather from each resident. The admissions coordinator can easily fit these interviews into her day, since that's part of her regular responsibilities. But my assistant and I will need to schedule time to get the interviews done between group activities.
And that's it. After you've considered what needs to be done and who's going to do it, you've got your plan. Then make sure to document what you've decided in your PIP charter. And you'll go through a similar process with each goal.
Oh, I see. So you work backwards from the goal to figure out the steps to get there.
Exactly.
Okay, but what if priorities shift and someone has to come off the project, or if a team member leaves?
From my experience, that's exactly why documenting your plan is so important. If priorities shift, you'll have left your team with a roadmap with clear directions on where to pick things up. Or if there's staff turnover, having a plan with assigned tasks and action steps makes it much easier to bring new team members up to speed when they join the project.
But what do you suggest to help keep teams on track? Things are constantly popping up, and I really want to see this project through.
That's a really good question. I recommend establishing measures of success to help your team know they're making progress on the SMART goals. Knowing you're making progress will help keep you motivated.
Okay. Well, what are some measures of success?
Well, there are two types of measures that you can include. The first are process measures, which provide feedback on whether you're actually meeting the SMART goals. The other are outcome measures, which demonstrate the impact on your priority area.
Okay, those sound like two very different kinds of measures, and I'm not sure I'm totally grasping the concept.
Let's focus on process measures first. These measures will allow you to evaluate if a project is on track. We can work through the SMART goal we created together as an example.
Okay.
So, process measures for this goal might include setting a target for the number of preference assessments to be done, or setting the time frame to complete this.
Oh, and we decided those specifics already. That doesn't sound too bad.
That's why creating clear and concise goals is so important. But something else to consider is that for each of the measures, you need to determine the data source, the baseline measurement, the date of first measurement, how frequently you'll be reporting, and the target date for completion.
Okay, so thinking about our SMART goal, the data source would be the assessments we complete. Our baseline measurement would be 0 assessments, for this project anyway. The date of the first measurement would be when we launch the project. And for frequency of reporting, I would say monthly, because we have our QAPI meetings once a month. And our target date for completion will be a month after we launch the project.
You've got it. Process measures are related to the process of getting your goal done.
Okay, so what about outcome measures?
Outcome measures are simply what we want to see as a result from whatever the change effort or intervention is. Let's refer back to the PIP charter. What did you say was your community's priority area?
Our priority area is improving customer satisfaction. We were getting complaints from family members saying that they felt our staff didn't know their loved ones very well, and we landed on PAL cards as a way to help staff get to know residents better.
So the outcome you want to see by using PAL cards would be a decrease in the number of these complaints.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so similar to a process measure, we want to set a target and a time frame, keeping in mind what's realistic.
I'd have to confirm with my team, but I think we'd want to see complaints cut in half in about 6 months.
Great. Now, what is your data source and what would be your baseline measurement?
Well, we keep track of our complaints, so that would be our data source. Our baseline measurement would be all the complaints related to not knowing residents.
And last but not least, how frequently will you be measuring and reporting?
We can check once a month before our QAPI meeting and report our progress then.
So your outcome measure would be a 50% reduction in complaints by 6 months using existing complaint data and reporting to the QAPI team monthly. Great work, Christina.
Thank you. It has been so helpful to walk through all these concepts with you. I feel like we're putting together a really great plan.
I'm so glad. Well, I think I've given your team plenty to go over, so let's schedule one more session to go over the last component.
Yes, definitely plenty to work on. That sounds like a good plan. Okay, how about...
In this video, Christina and Therese focused on establishing SMART goals for the project and setting up an interdisciplinary plan of action. They also identified both process and outcome measures for the project. With your team, develop your own goals, plan of action and measures, and document the specifics in your PIP charter. And in the final video, you'll learn more about using effective communication strategies to ensure the success of your goals.